what does success look like to me? What am I driving towards? And those things are very personal. It's amazing what you can accomplish when there's trust in the room. And when you remove that trust, it's remarkable how inefficient you can become.
And when you've got guys around you who are buying into your vision and pushing towards the same thing, it's energizing.
Well, it's Josh and Kenton here with another beautiful day. Man, I'll tell you what, like days come in all forms, but there's beauty in all of them.
Sure doesn't feel like it sometimes though, does it?
I mean, sometimes you got to look through the cracks.
Yeah.
It's I think that one of the things that's been on my head over the last while is that suffering is inevitable. Like, we're all going to suffer. Mm-hmm. But joy is not inevitable. Joy is a choice.
Oh, interesting.
And so if you're going to be joyful at all, you got to choose it. Because if joy is just dependent on your circumstance, then chances are, there's enough that goes wrong in our lives that can zap you pretty easily. Is
it something you just choose, or is it something you act on?
I mean, you choose and then you act on it.
Both?
I think so. Yeah,
I feel like there's some people out there who just choose to be happy. Just choose, or not just be happy, sorry. Joy and happiness aren't one and the same.
Well,
Similar.
I mean, they're closer than people think. When we were kids, there was a lot of talk about there being a huge distinction. A lot of the research that I've done over the last while is like, it's not as big a distinction as you think. We tried to cheapen happiness. Yeah, we tried to make happiness more dependent on circumstance. But it turns out that the definition is not actually that different. And so it's like, if you're happy, you're joyful. If you're joyful, you're happy. Like, there's a lot of crossover. I'm not saying they're completely the same thing, but the circles they cross each other over quite a bit. And I think, like, I used to have this thought that, I mean, someone like my dad, for example, one of the happiest people I know, one of the most joyful people I know. And he's in the twilight of his life, and I love him like crazy. He's been an awesome dad. One of the things is, like, he was just almost never down. Like, literally almost never. And when I was young, I thought he was just naive, honestly. Like, not when I was really young. When I was really young, I loved it. But then you hit like those like later teenage years, and you start to see the injustice of life, and you start to see like some of the darker sides of things and all of that. And so I was like, man, my dad must just not recognize, like, that World War II ever happened, even though he was hard. Born just after it. Yeah. And then as I got older, we would have these chats in the evening where he would be discussing things he was working through. And then at one point, it was even like, as I got a bit older yet, he would discuss things that he had worked through when I was a kid, because he was a principal of a school. He had to deal with a lot of really, really, really dark stuff, really dark. And he was telling me, I dealt with this and I dealt with that back then. And I looked at him, I'm like, for real? He's like, well, what do you expect? Like, this is, he was in the real world. He was swinging every day. And I just assumed that he just like didn't really know the dark side, but he totally knew it, dealt with it, and came out joyful. That was just the way he was.
Yeah. Well, in my life, I can think of nobody more joyful than your dad.
Yeah.
He was seriously just... And you know what? Even in circumstances, because he was my principal. Oh, no, he was my teacher.
Yeah, that's right.
He was never my principal.
That's right.
But same thing. Like, you could see the environment around him, and I'm like, does this guy just not, like, whereas other people would just be so affected and crushed down by it, he just chose to kind of rise above. But being a teenager, I didn't see that was him choosing to rise above it. You said it earlier. It's like, is this guy clueless?
Yeah.
Is he naive? But no, he's just choosing to rise above it, which is something like, man, I would love to figure out how to do that more.
Well, and I think that it's a journey for most of us. I mean, a lot of us tend to consider ourselves realists and tend to not gloss over a lot of stuff, which means, and I think sometimes that's just an excuse for saying, like, let me be negative for a while, and let me, pretend to have good reasons for it. And in fairness, sometimes we go through really hard stuff in life, and there's times when you got to cry. There's no doubt about it. But yeah, joy still remains a choice. And yeah, so I've been thinking about that quite a bit over the last while. And where I'm at with my kids, they're at ages where, they're not going to be around forever. Like my oldest is graduating from university, in a few months here, month and a half. And she's got her thesis coming up really quick. And my youngest is still, he's got a few years with us, but they're going to pass fast. And I want to have times of real joy with my family. Like I really do. And I mean, we've had times of real joy working together.
Yeah.
It's not like hard work operates in absence of joy. Like I have actually, there's some jobs that we've done where I can remember just thinking, man, this is just straight up fun.
Yeah. I tie my most joyful moments to actually being on the tools.
Yeah.
Like to actually, I think like we previously talked about,
we said that a bit. I mean, but taking an example of like just recently, you and I were down on the island together working on a project that was like pretty intense from a timing standpoint. Like we didn't have that many days to get stuff done. So we had to, like, I was down there for basically 2 working days.
2 work days.
Yeah. And you were down there for 5.
Yeah.
And then we had a team of guys with us and none of those guys had ever done that product before. So there was like a pretty steep learning curve initially for the first day for sure.
Yeah. Well, and even I needed a refresher, and it was, even for me, it took me a few hours to really get the hang of it again. So it felt great
stressful. Fun being able to produce more than you for just an hour. That was great. I liked that. That was fun. But I think like we were like working sun up to sundown as hard as we could for those days that I was down there, and I really enjoyed it. Like that brought me a lot of joy.
Yeah, working right into dusk.
Yeah, and I mean, great. They were blue blazer days on a beautiful property, so that helps. But the big thing was that we were working side by side, and there's something about producing that is like with guys you appreciate. That's just so much fun, man.
Yeah,
and it's interesting, and I think that one of the things as I get older that I am careful about is investing heavily into something that should bring joy, but actually doesn't typically bring joy to me. Like, I think, some people will invest a lot in vacations because you're supposed to go on vacations every so often. Like this is just kind of acceptable in our society, I guess. It's kind of a status thing as well to some degree, I think, is that like if you don't have your 1 or 2 decent vacations a year, then what's going on. And I'm not opposed to that at all. But for us as a family, we've looked at it really strongly for a long time. And for us going into the backwoods or doing a mountain hike and spending some time overnight, that kind of thing, which is really simple, which is not considered like, it's not luxurious, but we've had some of our best moments that way. Some incredibly joyful, wonderful times that don't cost anything. And it's not like we're trying to not pay, but we're just looking at it and saying, what do we value? What brings us joy? And it's not necessarily the same type of vacation that a lot of our friends go on, which is...
It's not about where you go, but who you're there with.
Well, it kind of is about where you go to some degree. It just so happens that we live in a really beautiful place that we love to really extract, we really appreciate and extract joy out of it. And it's not that I don't appreciate other places in the world as well, but there's not many places in the world I like more than where we are at.
Yeah, it's true, especially depending on the time of year.
Which is simply like where you live. That's part of, I think that's a choice that's based around joy, really.
Yeah, and it has its moments.
Because you were living in town.
Yeah.
And now you're living on your lake property out of town, which is like
45-minute drive.
45-minute drive.
Yeah. And to me, it's not, I wouldn't describe it as joy. To me, it's peace.
Okay.
Which, I don't know, maybe the two are share qualities or whatever. Maybe there is an element of joy out there. But for me, like a few weeks ago, I was just, we're in northern Canada, so the leaves are already bare in early November here.
Yeah.
Have been for a couple weeks. But I was sitting out there a few weeks ago, and the leaves were just, autumn was in full bloom, and there was zero wind on the lake. it was sunny, so it was like 12 degrees or something, and I was just sitting out there, no technology, nothing. And I was just like, I sat out there for hours just staring. And it's a hard thing to explain because so few people are like, that sounds boring. But to me, it was like the most recharging, peaceful time that just makes life. It's those moments that make life worth living.
Yeah.
So.
And it almost takes discipline to be able to sit and just be still. Because there's always something calling. There's always something that you could be doing. But to be able to take some time and just be like, I'm going to actually like sit in this moment. It's very cool.
Yeah. But again, that's where the setting does that. It forces you to do that because it's like those moments are so few and far between too, right? It's one of the things I love about watching the sunrise or the sunset, which at this time of year I can see both because the days are so short up here.
Yeah.
I can actually in November see the sunrise and it sets, and it's always such a short moment. It's minutes and then it's gone. Yeah. And then if you were staring at your phone or you're working, which is
gone,
it's just like, oh, I missed it.
Yeah.
It's really fun being in that setting. And that's why one of the reasons we choose to live out there is because it forces you to unplug and actually appreciate. And I think gratitude is a big part of joy. In order to be joyful, you have to be grateful.
Man. Yeah.
Because I was doing some research because I love, like, to a point where my wife thinks I'm weird. I love the sunset. It's like this. And I love view. I love nature. I love, like, our place out there. It's a beater place for the record. But it's on a very beautiful spot where it has a really, really nice
It's a
view.
$1 million location. It's just not $1 million structure.
It's a beater place that we might push over one day, but the view is fantastic. And I was doing some research into why that matters so much to me, and it comes back that it's something that is absolutely, it's a deep form of beauty through creation that I didn't need to work my butt off to create.
Totally.
It's just already there,
and neither can you control it.
And there's nothing I can do.
Nothing.
And that's why those days where the sunset comes out and it's so beautiful, because that's not every day either.
That's true.
You get even a blue blazer day. You just watch the sun go down. It's boring. You need the right mixture of clouds.
You do.
And stuff that you can't control.
Not at all.
So when it does show up and it forces you, or forces me at least, I always completely unplug and just like, doesn't matter what's going on in my life right now, I'm going to go out and enjoy this.
Yeah, and I find the same type of like moments of wonder under a starry night, like a clear starry night, man, especially if it's unbelievably cold. Like if it's super, super cold, I think I kind of got, when I was working way up north, I was 19 years old and I was running a chainsaw way up in the north for a winter, and it was wildly brutal work. Like I was working in -40 pretty much the whole time that I was up there. That's where the temperature stuck. But one of the massive rewards was that every night, just about without fail, the stars were spectacular because there just wasn't a lot of snow up there. It was up near Fort Nelson, so it's just way up pretty close to the Arctic Circle. The trees are getting skinnier compared to here. Like they're not the same, but there's still a lot of them. So it was, I was running a chainsaw, and at the end of the day, and often we were working 14, 15, sometimes up to 17 hours in the day. Like we were pushing long, long hours, almost all of it in the dark because it was winter and it's way up north. And so you'd barely see the sun. So that side of it's kind of crazy. You're not getting natural vitamin D. Like I'll tell you that, or vitamin C for that matter.
Bring your supplements.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, man, at the end of the workday, we'd shut all the lights off because we had like lights everywhere to try to, see what we were doing. Try not to run the chainsaw into your leg was kind of the idea. And I'd lay down on the snow, absolutely just bitterly cold. And it would either be like this incredibly starry night, but often than not, the northern lights would also be there. Oh. And just absolutely crazy across the sky. just doing their thing. And if you've never seen Northern Lights, like, number one, I'm sorry. And number two, it's just spectacular. Like, it's worth it. And I know that people travel a long ways just to see that, and it's worth it because it's a natural phenomenon like the sunset where you don't do anything to deserve it. You just got to be at the right place at the right time. And it just so happens. And I'm not even sure, like, honestly, it's the farthest north that I've ever spent any significant time. So I don't know if it's that common up there or if it just happened to be a wonderful year for it, but it was unreal.
Yeah. The further north you go, the more common it is.
For sure.
That's why people travel way, way far north.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's a very likely chance they'll see it.
Yeah. So. And so, I mean, it's whatever the case, man, like, most nights I got just this spectacular show, and it was the same type of thing as you say, like sitting and looking out over the lake and watching the sunset or just spending that time. It's like you can't lay down on a frozen road in -40 indefinitely, because at a certain point you will not get back up. A rigor mortis will set in and that'll be that. Yeah. But I would just lay there perfectly still and just watch and just soak it in, because I recognized the moment. And maybe it was juxtaposed so distinctly against the suffering of the day, because the work was just brutal, that maybe that also just made it that much better. Like, I think there's something about really hard stuff that makes the good stuff really good if you can switch your mind into gear to appreciate it.
Is the opposite of joy suffering?
No.
I almost feel like...
I don't think so.
Can you experience joy if you have zero suffering?
I would argue not as deep. And I bet you that there's a lot of people that could talk about this with a lot more clarity than we can, because we're working men, but this is how we see it. And so I think it's a fair perspective, but I don't know what the research says. I don't know what the psychologists, that you could argue against this perhaps, but I feel like suffering is part of what makes joy amazing.
I would agree with that. I think if we don't have our lows, and there are times in our life where we need to just grit and get through circumstances, situations, trials, challenges, deep-rooted suffering. If we don't go through that, it's hard to experience the highest times in your life. But then again, you see people who are just don't ever seem to, and I don't know if it's they put on a face but they don't ever seem to feel those elements, or they don't let the suffering get to them as much. They still seem to choose to be joyful and happy. Yeah,
and I think it's still always a choice, because anytime that I've gotten close to someone like that and I found out their backstory, I always find cause to be dark. I always find that there's
trauma in there somewhere.
Always. Because even if you do nothing in life, it'll come to you. Like life is built for challenge. Like there is no way around it.
Yeah.
And I think that some of us create challenges that we don't necessarily need, but we'll do that for ourselves. And sometimes we'll essentially steal our own joy. I think that's for sure. Mm-hmm. Like it happens. But I think that, anytime that I've talked to anyone where I'm like, man, this person's just so straight up happy, you find out their backstory, and usually they came to a decision at a critical point in their life to say, yeah, that's not who I'm going to be. I'm going to be this person. And I know for my dad, it was at the age of 17. Like he had rheumatic fever when he was 9, which is a pretty serious fever that typically will affect your heart and your strength, essentially your vitality in a lot of ways for the rest of your life. And so when he was 17, he still couldn't carry more than, for sure not more than 30 pounds. I think there was a lot of days when he couldn't carry more than 10 pounds because his wrist just wouldn't take it. And so living on the farm, like that's a serious issue.
Yeah.
And so he could paint, he could like collect eggs, he could do those kinds of things, but anything that required like robust arms, he just couldn't do. And so he was really frustrated because his heart also wasn't working well. Mm-hmm. And so those two things, he didn't think he'd ever get married because he was like, who wants a guy without a heart and without arms? That was one of his lines. He's like that's not cool. And he didn't want to do that to someone either. And so there was a time at which he was 17 where he was really down. Like he was just like, this is not great. And he tells a story, and my dad was a storyteller, and I miss them because at this point he can't tell them the way he used to. Communication is a struggle for him at this point. But he used to say that he walked into his mom and dad's bedroom when they were both in there, and he was from a family of 14. So these were, his mom and dad were like, I mean, they knew how to handle kids. They were great parents. They were, a wonderful family, but big farm family. Everyone worked hard. And so he was one of many. Let's put it this way. It wasn't like he was the only kid, but he walked in there and he just looked at them and he kind of raised his face to God and said, no matter what happens in my life, I'm choosing not to be discouraged. And he kind of made a vow to God in front of his parents. That's just what he did.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why every time I ever saw the guy, he was weirdly optimistic about everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I envy how your dad was my whole life. He was, it's actually in many ways very inspirational because it was just like, and sometimes quirky, but
oh sure.
But like, man, to have that level of just like, because it just seemed like everything rolled off him.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it did or not, but
pretty much.
He definitely put up the front that it's just like,
no, it wasn't a front, because the thing is, when you're a kid in home, you would see the oh man, you can't. Our kids know us. My kids know my weakness. They know my strength. Like I can't hide it. And so, no, my dad, I saw him discouraged for 2 weeks once, and I won't walk through the circumstance. It was intense. Basically, people really close to him let him down, and in a pretty major way. And so it was tough. It was about 2 weeks where he wasn't himself, which was really, and this was when I was 17. Interestingly, the same age he was when he made his vow, and that's just coincidence. But I saw that and I noted it because I'm like, oh, like dad isn't his normal self. And then I saw him like shake it off and move forward. And part of that was that he was making a redirection in his life that wasn't supported by some of the people close to him. And they just felt like he was not keeping their best interests in mind, which is fair because perspectives can be different. But he had conviction about what he needed to do. And so he felt he needed to make the shift. He had thought it through carefully, and he felt like it was for the better of the people that he was working with. But it also meant that he wouldn't be working in a partnership with these guys as he had been in the past.
Yeah.
And so there was conflict around that. And in business, that's often something that we face which is like, we need to make tough decisions sometimes. And the question is, how do we process that, especially if it's not a popular decision with the people around us that are close to us. And if it's not, but you feel the conviction, sometimes you've got to do it. And it wasn't anything that was, as a kid, I couldn't, and even now, I can't really evaluate whether my dad was exactly right or wrong. What I can say is that it was a tough decision. And he made it, and he made it out of conviction. And then after he got through that, he was back to himself, and I've never seen that out of him again.
But that was a major life-turning, pivotal decision that he was going through at that time.
And I would argue it was the right one because the things that came out of that were extremely positive.
Yeah.
So, and interestingly, and this is something that I've noted over my life, is that when it comes to partnerships, it's easy for there to be short-term rocky road. What I love to see, even if it's hard in the short term, I love to see partners that have worked together closely. If you got to split apart and do other things, I can see why it can be bumpy. There's a lot of reasons for that. But if they're mature people, almost always they will come back to some sort of friendship after the fact.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a sign of like, these guys are bigger than just like, they're not driven by just their own priorities. They're driven by something that's larger. Yeah. And so sure enough, like in the case my dad with these guys, all of them turned out to be great friends down the road, which is proof to the fact that they were all big people, which I appreciate.
Yeah. Well, it'd be hard to be friends with your dad and not rebuild that relationship down the road because again, he's just like, your dad's not the kind of person that would hold anything against.
No.
Because he just, and it's a quality that I don't think would be bad in any business situation. I mean, if ever I felt like your dad, I don't think I ever remember your dad ever losing his temper or anything.
It's funny because he never lost his temper with me ever. Like never, not once in my life. Never.
Really?
Never.
Wow.
Never ever.
I lost my temper at my kids this morning. I'm not even joking.
Yeah, no, I can honestly say that he never lost his temper with me ever. And actually just saying that is kind of wild.
Yeah.
But
not
that
many
was
people can say that.
But that was his, like, that wasn't his way of dealing with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He would pretend to lose his temper at people. And I remember he would, like, because sometimes he loved shock value. Like, shock value was a huge thing for him. He just found great joy in it.
He had a little bit of a dramatic flair.
Oh yeah.
He did.
Yeah. And so he would like pretend to lose his temper at times if he felt like it would accomplish a goal. And that was fun, but he never played that game with me. And I was way too soft because I would have just melted. And so he was too kind. But yeah, I never saw that. But conversely, despite having that example, it's taken a long time for me to kind of being able to figure out how to have. And now I'm not my dad, so I haven't tried to be him. There was a time at which I thought that there was an expectation on me to be like him. And most people, like, for the longest time, people are like, "Oh, you're Abe's son. You're Abe's son." And I'm like, "Yeah." And I was like, my name wasn't important because I was Abe's son. That was all that mattered. And so they liked me right away, but they would also expect me to be like him. And that was super challenging for me because I'm like, man, like, my dad's a superhero and I'm just a pretty normal guy.
Yeah.
And so that's hard to do. And I'm also doing very different things. Like, he was a pastor and he was a principal and a teacher, and I'm a business person. And so that we're different people.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, not that I wanted to disassociate with him. Never did. Always proud of him, always thankful for him, but was uncomfortable with certain expectations.
Yeah.
And I also had a bit of melancholy. Like, I'm actually much more introspective than him. And there's times at which I can be a bit, not as exuberant. That's for sure.
That's for sure.
And so I think it's taken me time to learn to focus on joy from my own perspective and to figure that out.
Man, never thought of it that way. And even the idea that could just be so simple as just making the choice. Because, like, honestly, we do let things get to us too much. We do have the ability to let, like, even like the circumstances we're dealing with day to day, week to week.
Yeah.
There's no reason we have to wear it so heavy.
Yeah.
Like, and especially for people who, like, if you're choosing to run a company and grow and try and scale a company, especially, you're choosing an element of suffering.
Sure.
You're going to deal with rejection. You're going to deal with growing pains.
Yeah.
Taking risks, uncertainties, pissed off customers, like, things that happen. Things are going to happen that are just right out of your control.
Totally.
And just the idea that you can choose to wear that, or you can just choose joy and let it roll off you. It's a really meaningful concept.
And here's one of the things that I've noticed with people that are joyful. Number one, they typically have a deep faith. I think it's hard to be super joyful if you feel like you're the ultimate authority in life. Yes. So I think faith is a big deal. And my dad's faith in God was always out front of him. Like, it always led. So I think that's like, if you don't recognize that, then you don't understand my dad. And so that was always out in front. I think that's a huge deal. Well, I think that it is a choice, but then there's also real life that you've got to work through. So it's not like you don't take things seriously.
Yeah.
And this is, I guess, the point is, like, joy can be out front. It can be the bow of your ship, but it doesn't mean that you're not still working through things in life. It doesn't mean that you're not still wrestling with stuff. It doesn't mean that you're not still pushing yourself to the red line at times. Like, those things happen.
Yeah.
And I think that in my dad's case, I think he pushed himself real hard. Like, he had a 16-year stretch where they're working in Southern Europe and doing a lot of stuff. And at the end of that, like, he needed a breather. And it wasn't that he wasn't joyful. It wasn't that he didn't love it, but it was like, okay, now I've done my thing and I need to take a breath.
Yeah.
And so there's a recognition, I think, around limits as well, that you're not just joyful because you're constantly hitting home runs. You're joyful because this is where you're at, and when you need to shift gears, then you're going to find joy in that as well.
It's the easiest to find joy when you feel like you're winning and hitting home runs, though. And I think that's almost a challenge, is like when you're going through the seasons when you're not, like, and it goes back to gratitude. Like, are you grateful for where you are, or even for the times that you were hitting home runs, even though you're not right now?
Yeah.
Because, like, sometimes we just get too caught up in the moment.
Oh, man.
And instead of being... Yeah. And even, like, the ability to step back and look at the overall picture, look where you were a month ago, 3 months ago, a year ago.
Yeah.
But you're so caught up in the crap. You're in the trenches right now, and that's all you can feel.
Yeah.
Sometimes just to take the choice to express some gratitude and recognize that.
Yeah.
Have some joy in your life despite what's going on in the day-to-day. That's got to be a superpower. You gotta find a way to tap into that.
It is. I know it is, and yet I don't always know it.
Yeah.
It's one of the things, one of the spin-offs, and I think that there's certain things that we lead with in life, and then there's a lot of spin-offs or side effects, kind of like a drug. You know, you take this, but then this will also come with it. One of the spin-offs of walking in that kind of joy is that you truly believe the best in people. And this is something that I watched my dad do, and I have to argue that he didn't try to do this per se. I think it came out of his stance of joy, that he was determined to be joyful in situations. So when someone would come, when there would be an interaction with someone, he just naturally defaulted to believe the best in them.
Yeah.
And to the point where, as a family, sometimes we had to almost protect him, or it felt that way, because he would literally just be like, well, no, this person's in this situation. We need to help them because this is just where they're at. Mm-hmm. We'd be like, yeah, but that guy might not be telling you the truth. And he'd be like, that's fair, but he definitely needs help. And we're like, okay, okay, fair enough. And a lot of times when someone would have nefarious like plans, or plans that weren't great, they would talk with my dad and he would just believe the best in them. And I think that sometimes they would just shift gears, because when someone really believes the best in you, man, you don't want to let them down.
Yeah. And that's why it's such a great leadership quality. Because, man, if you have a leader, or somebody in your life who's just believing in the best in you, and like you want to meet that standard that they're putting on you.
You do.
So it's almost like we as leaders need to keep that in mind, because it actually gives you the ability to have accountability with whoever's working with you or under you or doing life with you.
Yeah.
Because you can actually have accountability with them, because, well, helps when you're not a tyrant.
Yeah.
Like, because it's really the opposite approach, right?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And I think that believing the best in somebody, it leads to trying to facilitate them. Like, there's something that happens inside of you. If you believe the best in someone, then what you want to do is you want to help them on a path that's meaningful, a path of fulfillment.
Yeah.
When I think over, and I think this is something that I kind of gained from my dad organically, because I can't remember making a decision to believe the best in people. Like, I can't remember that, but I can tell you this, is that the majority of people that I've had work with me and for me, I've just loved working with them.
Yeah.
And I've really, really enjoyed them. And I think that for whatever reason, there's a spin-off where they typically develop and their skills improve. And usually I'll send them on to other things at a certain point, because a lot of guys won't work with me forever, and I don't expect them to.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I just think it's one of the things that I've enjoyed a lot in my life is investing in young people. And I've always felt like the return has been bigger than whatever I've given. I've always felt that. It's just like, I feel like there's this reciprocity. There's this kind of like, I believe the best in you. I want the best for you. And in that process, there's something about the way that people typically respond. And it's not always the case,
but
typically. And it's interesting, because if someone if I'm working with someone where I'm guilty until proven innocent, I find I don't have a lot of patience for that.
Yeah.
And so I typically will move on fairly quickly, which is probably why I think that most of the people I've worked with and have worked with me, I've just really enjoyed.
Yeah. Because if they're not going to work out with you, you can tell right away.
Almost right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is that a value thing? Like you have to share a certain amount of values with the person to know if they're going to be a good fit with you?
No, it's a direction thing. Because I think that I'll have young guys that don't even know what their values are barely, that often come to work for me. That I don't think that they have. Like, I'm not saying they don't have values. I'm just saying that they're not concrete enough for them to be something that I would shy away from. If it's an older person, yeah, absolutely. If there's someone older, I'll tell you what. I mean, you know this. You hire someone who's got a completely different value system than you. For example, just as simple as just cusses about everything.
Yeah.
Like if you hire someone that just simply cusses about everything, you won't last many days with that guy.
No.
You can ask them to stop, but if that's how they've lived for 40 years, they're not going to change for you.
Yeah, we tried that 3 weeks ago. We asked him to stop and he quit.
Yeah. He didn't quit cussing. He quit the job.
Yeah.
To be clear.
So
yeah. And so no, I think that for younger guys, I feel, and this is probably what I've loved, is that when you hire younger guys, you have a chance to help them build values. And so for me, direction, like the direction someone's heading, the direction that I think their values are going to take is just way more exciting to me than what their values actually are when they come to work for me, especially if they're young.
Interesting. So long as they're heading the right direction.
Or open to it. Yeah, sometimes when they come, they are not heading the right direction, but they're open to it.
Yeah.
I remember and I may have mentioned this before, but it's just a funny story where I was looking to hire a guy who had a horrible past.
Yeah, you did mention.
Yeah, I did mention this. And they're just like, yeah, but he wants to make a change. I'm like, okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Just go in the right direction.
So that kind of thing. And if they're willing to pivot, and then it's up to people. Like, you can't make those decisions for them. You can't hire someone and make them joyful. Like, you can't. But you can challenge them to make the decision to become joyful.
Yeah.
And so
start working through that process.
Totally.
Like, start making the changes now.
Totally. And my brother does this. He trains a lot of young guys in the job that he works at, a lot of young guys. And he was just telling me, he was just training a guy recently, and the guy looked at him, because my brother's eccentric and he's got a lot of, he notices a lot of weird details. And so in his job, it's all about timing and protocol and that kind of stuff. And he'll be able to tell someone, yeah, and this and that and that. And then right now, when a light turns, and he just knows in his mind when it's going to turn. And the guy's like, you're the king of useless information. and he is. He's like, and they had a good chuckle. But he always challenges his young guys that he trains. He's like, you can choose to hate this job and to just put in your time, or you can choose to realize what you've got and embrace it and love it, which is basically choose to be joyful. And I think that with all of the people that work with us, I think it's really up to us to encourage them to choose joy.
That's such a good message. And it's actually something I really need to hear right now. But it's also hard to, I would actually argue I myself have been trying to do that, but with the wrong approach. It's because I express my love for things and have just tried to model like the positive side of the trade and what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I've never actually sat down and expressed to people that, hey, you have a choice to like this or not. Like, because that's the thing that we have to understand. Even coming into this conversation, I don't even think I've had ever really considered that or grasped that I have a choice to be joyful, even about the aspects of the job that I don't like or I'm not good at. I can still choose to have a different attitude and perspective on things.
Well, I can tell you definitively that I've gone through seasons where joy has not been my default, and you've seen that.
Yeah.
Like, there's been times where for whatever reason, I feel like I'm close enough to the red line or just not in the right headset. And so I'm definitely not coming at this conversation from a place of mastery, but I am coming from this position of like, hey, I think this matters. And I think that we can do better. Like, I think that, and I don't mean it in a way like like let's bash each other over the head to joy. I think it's more like reminding.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think that you can be joyful for someone. This is something that I've been thinking about a lot too, because we talk about accountability, and I'm really cautious around accountability because essentially you've got to make your decisions and I've got to make mine. Mm-hmm. But what I can do for you is I can encourage you and be someone who will pull alongside of you in the right direction.
Yeah.
And that encouragement and even bringing up stuff that needs to be brought up, I think that's what friends do.
Yeah.
And I think in
good friends do.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I hope so. And I feel like that allows us then to encourage each other to not just be joyful ourselves, but to also drag people along with us and put out, you know, and I mean, and not everybody is ready for that. Like not everybody's going to be like, oh, good point, I'm going to go with this. Yeah. But I think lots of people are at the same token, because I think a lot of times we tend to feel like we're a victim of our circumstance. And neither you nor I love the idea of being a victim. Like we hate that.
Yeah.
However, it's an easy default.
Man. Like that's one of the things that I see is so destructive on people all the time, is choosing to let. And to me, the main thing about being a victim is when it's other people's fault.
Yeah.
And, you know, not taking the accountability and
the responsibility.
Blaming
sure.
Life. So that's a victim mentality, which in my opinion is just one of the worst mentalities you could possibly have. Yeah. But almost like that choice of choosing joy is almost like the next step. It's like, because I do my absolute best to take responsibility for everything, that means I'm wearing a lot.
Well, this is it.
Especially when you're running a company. Totally. It means everything that goes wrong.
Yeah.
And even like in our division on the island right now, everything's going wrong. Guys got COVID, pouring rain, schedules to hoots, and I just wear it.
Sure.
And even this morning, it's just like, these are things that are just out of my control.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why am I so stressed out? Like, I'm not being victimized by it.
Yeah.
But there are just genuine circumstances that are just like, I can't grow to be a person that, you know, where I can control the weather, because I just, no matter how much I want to improve in life, that will always be out of my control. But I can choose to just be like, you know what? It is what it is. I'm not going to let it beat me down. I'm going to choose joy.
Yeah.
Which is like, so yeah, there's not being a victim. There's taking accountability, but then there's the next level, which is
I think
just having a positive mindset about things that are going to be out of your control.
Yeah, it's a good way to phrase it, and I think that the fear that some people have is that they'll lose touch with reality, or that you'll become this person that people don't take seriously. But interestingly, what I've seen with people that are really joyful is that you actually do take them seriously, and you want them on your team.
Yeah. Like you want to be around them.
Yeah. You want them in your corner.
Yeah.
You really do. And so even if, I mean, I worked with a guy for a while, this crazy dude from Australia, which, you know, God bless Australians. If there's any of you listening, we love you, but man, you're crazy guys.
Yes, you are.
and he was a crazy Australian, and we got along so great because we just had so much fun. There was just a lot of joy. He was an expert skier, and I'm a horrible skier, and we just happened to be on the slopes a lot together that year. Our work, we got free passes, and we did a lot of skiing. And at one point he was like, you know, your style's so horrible, Friesen. He says, we're going to correct this. And so he spent like about an hour with another dude which was a far better skier yet, like a top class skier. And they're like trying to work on my style. And then after about an hour, they both look at each other. They look at me. Let's just go back to how we were skiing before. And thankfully, my kids didn't inherit my style. They're all really smooth and great at what they do, like when it comes to stuff on the slopes. But I just think, you know, doing stuff with joy, there's just something about when you're around people like that it's a, you know, unless it's false joy where they're just trying to put on a front so that, you know, to hide the real pain that's going on. And I think that this is, you know, maybe a slight caution is that is a thing. You know, you can pretend to be joyful.
I think it's a major, like we're not saying put up a face.
Yeah, no.
Don't pretend.
Yeah, no.
Actually genuinely dig down and be grateful. Go through the process that you need to do in order to find joy daily.
Yeah. And I think for me, you know, I'm not like my dad where it's my default. So I've got to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's times at which if I'm going through something tough, I'll be willing to admit it. And I'm not saying that my dad wouldn't admit it, but it wasn't his default to. He would typically get through something. If it was something really major, like I gave the one example, then yeah, we could dig through something. But for the most part, joy was his default. And I wouldn't say that I'm at that space, but I am saying at this point in my life, I want to make it more of a priority.
Yeah. It's got to be a main ingredient in your personality.
It may not be my main default, but I want it to be near the front.
Yeah.
And so.
Me too, actually. I feel like I really took something from that because I've always really appreciated your dad. Like I worked with him a little bit. I kind of had a unique perspective on your dad because he was my teacher in high school.
Yeah.
And then when I went to work for you,
yeah,
he was working with us at that time.
Yeah.
And then I went down to the mainland and worked with him, just the two of us for a little while. And I've always deeply, especially as I matured and grew up in life, I've always looked at him and deeply looked at him and been like, what is it about him that I just so appreciate? And I really think this is, and it's something that we can choose.
Totally. And you even saw him shoot a nail right into his leg and keep on smiling.
Yeah. We're like, man, you got to go get that cleaned out. He's like, no, I'm fine, boys. Get back to work. He's a great guy.
That's awesome. And on that note, that's great. It was a good conversation, man.